We have 1 minute. It's that last minute.
6 on my watch.
Is it 6 on your watch? Oh, it's now 6 on my iPad, so 6 o'clock it is. Welcome, everybody, and we're going to call to order this regular board meeting of the Truckee-Donner Public Utility District. It is 6 p.m. on Wednesday, April 2nd. Can we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Morrell? Here. Director Randall? Here. Director Bender?
Here.
Vice President Laliotis?
Here.
President Finn?
Here. And as you all are willing and able, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Morrell, would you like to lead us? Did I do that last time? Yeah, I will. Lead us again. Ready, begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
There are no changes this evening.
Thank you very much. Public comment. This is time that is set aside for the public to comment, to address the board on any matter that is not on the agenda. Agendized items should be addressed at the time that that item is considered. Do we have any public comment tonight? Seeing none. Moving on to director updates. This is time for directors to comment on any item within the purview of the district that is not agendized. Do we have any director comments this evening?
Welcome to spring.
Yeah. Yeah, something was in the air. It was spring.
Fall spring.
Spring last week.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so seeing none, we're all good. Okay. Department updates. I remembered. Yay. Hi, Chad.
Almost shot you with the light on accident there. Good evening, President Finn and members of the board. My name is Chad Reed, and I have the opportunity to present for the Water Department today. We're going to start off with the graph that's become also familiar. The very first thing that we wanted to talk a little bit about is that we're tracking about 2% down for the year, which is nothing to be alarmed about or nothing. It's kind of what we would have expected, which is good in the overall thing when we were talking about conservation. However, when we compare the last running 3 Februaries, we're down about 9%. And so that's actually good too, because if we're going to hear later in a different report about what we're selling. The more that we're selling and yet we're producing less means that maybe we're getting a hold of some of our leaks, maybe we're able to start capturing more of it. So that's a really good sign. My second item that I wanted to talk about today is we are extremely excited to welcome Mr. TJ Dwyer to the operations manager for the water department. He'll be taking the position for Mr. Smith and Earl Smith. TJ comes to us with a lot of experience. He's been with the district for about 10 years. He worked up at the summit prior to that, and we are so lucky to have him with us and joining us on our team. So I just wanted to recognize TJ tonight and say we're excited to have him here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hey.
Uh-oh. Technology challenges already. This button? Yeah. You got to point it.
Got to point it. Okay, good evening, President Finn and members of the board. My name is Mike Swanson. I'm the Electric Engineering and Operations Director. The images on the screen are from last Saturday, when the city of Roseville hosted the 23rd Annual American Public Power Association's Lineman's Rodeo. Now, unlike a traditional rodeo with horses and cattle, this is an event that showcases a lineman's skills in how they do their job. Competitors are judged on accuracy, safety, and speed, the winning team completing their task flawlessly in the short amount of time. This year's event brought together 52 public utilities, 61 journeyman teams, and 115 apprentices. Wow. We're proud to be represented by two of our apprentices, Colby Silkwood and Jesse Ledesma, who are participating for the very first time in a lineman's rodeo. They participated in 5 events, a written test, an obstacle course that was on a pole, not on the ground, hurt man rescue, lightning arrestor changeout, and a sidewalk guy installation. I am pleased to announce that Colby placed 48th out of the 115, and Jesse placed 95th out of the 115. A commendable effort, considering this was their very first rodeo. Many of the apprentice participants had participated in several years, or several events, I should say. The event saw a fantastic turnout of coworkers, family, and friends from TDPUD, all there to support the team. The operations team is already planning for future years' participation in lineman's rodeos. With that, unless there's any questions, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say welcome. This is your first podium with us, right? Yes, I noticed. Yes, welcome.
You didn't see the nerves or anything.
Didn't hear him either.
All right. Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Jillian Stewart, Human Resources and Risk Director. This month's update, I wanted to start by sharing some highlights from the risk and compliance side of the department. In February, we collected $110,249 in property damage claim reimbursements. This is the highest month we've had in reimbursements in my tenure. And what I wanted to shout out here is that it takes a lot of detail, effort, communication to work with insurance companies to get these reimbursements for incidents such as pole or car versus pole. So I wanted to shout out Scott Botten, our risk and compliance program manager, and the accounting team for all the hard work it takes to get that accomplished. And then I also wanted to celebrate that in March, we were awarded a $10,000 risk control grant by our insurance company, Aqua JPIA. This was awarded to the district to support our ongoing efforts with emergency operations, program development, and training for our staff. So exciting to have that contributing. Next up is our core value recognition winners. We have 2 months to catch up on here. Jen Mason is our accounting specialist lead. She won in February for accountability. I'll read her what was submitted for her nomination. When the going gets tough, the tough needs Jennifer Mason on their team. Jennifer's team has really experienced the roller coaster of life over the past several years, which has led to variability in resources and a constant need to pivot. Jennifer has done it without complaint, hesitation, or noticeable struggle. We know it hasn't been easy, but somehow she makes sure everything is still done on time, does it with a smile, and continues to encourage and be supportive of what is happening with staff's personal lives. Her effort has been even more noticeable the last month as she works on closing year-end for accounts payable and payroll while preparing for the upcoming workload of a new MOU contract. With this nomination, her coworkers wanted to be sure Jennifer knew how much her support and hard work was appreciated. Next up is Matt Wellis. He won for timeliness, and he's a facilities foreman here. Our workday was recently interrupted with the unscheduled fire alarm activation. After determining that the alarm activation was a false alarm, Matt quickly began to investigate and troubleshoot the system for a potential problem. He collaborated with the water department to create a water flow situation that may have been the cause. Additionally, Matt quickly engaged the district's fire alarm and suppression system contractor for troubleshooting assistance. Within 2 days of the false alarm activation, the contractor had discovered a problem with the system, offered a potential solution, and replaced the faulty flow sensor. Matt's timely response and attention towards identifying a cause offered the opportunity to identify a potential problem and have it quickly repaired. And lastly, we have the customer service department for integrity. This team is being recognized by peers outside of their department who have witnessed their high levels of integrity while working at the front counter. The team consistently remains professional and friendly with the customers they are helping. Even during a recent challenging interaction with a customer at the counter, the team worked together to provide service, de-escalate the situation as best as possible, and remain professional. Not always an easy thing to do, but this team does a good job of doing this every time. Thank you, customer service team. And lastly, just a recap of our events from February and March. Our most participated event, potluck of the year, is always the Super Bowl potluck. We have decorations and a lot of fun, different types of food that brings more engagement. And then on March 14th, otherwise known as Pie Day, Chad hosted our Pie Day celebration with providing some yummy pies for the staff, but we also held a contest of who could recite the most numbers of pi. And it was Sarah Knapp out of our customer service department with 14 digits. So we'll see if she's able to hold on to that for next year. Someone will challenge her.
Impressive.
And then we also did a St. Patrick's Day potluck on St. Patty's Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Mike Salmon. Starting off with some customer service scores. On the left is how satisfied you are. Customers were, this is for the previous month's surveys, 27 survey results. Close to a little over 90% very satisfied or greater. How much time was a little mixed, but it's all in the expectations of the customer, but pretty consistent results there. This next on the left is the reasons for their calls. Billing questions and payment questions were the dominant ones, and the others are presented here. That's consistent with most other months as well. On the right is the type of customer that called. Commercial at the bottom, full-time residential at the top, second homes in the middle. Some other customer service metrics now that we've completed 2024 on the left is call volume that averaged 49 calls per day. Pretty big number from my perspective. And then we also looked at the spread throughout each month, and it does peak in July and August, probably in synchronicity with occupancy levels kind of upticking in those 2 months would be the main reason. And then we've billed 11.3 million. That's from our water and electric usage and services provided 2 months in. On the electric side, billing 14,841 customers, 0.5% over last year at the same time. The very top red dots are average kWh per account per month. And you'll see that on the far left, the top red dots are 2023 figures. And that was due to the extreme winter that we had. And so there was a lot more in the very intense winter. We had a lot more electricity usage per customer going on. The 2025 figures for January and February are right in that sweet spot of averages the last 3 years. That's why you can't really see them, because they're blending in with the other colors. And then this chart also shows you the cycle throughout the year between winter and summer months. This is not to scale fully. It's zoomed in a little so you can see the dots and see the variety. The next chart is as a whole per day billing of kWh. And you can see this is to scale, 0 and up. And trending similar to the 3-year average, slightly up in January and slightly down in February. On the water side, 13,715 accounts, up 0.4% over last year. Gallons billed average per day of 125 gallons is up 4% over the prior year. January was flat to last year, and I'll work on getting this to be a 3-year average. It's probably more applicable because it does change from year to year. And you can see in the summer months how things ratchet up from a water use standpoint. A little bit of past due accounts information. I think it'd be good to share this quarterly with the board. As of March 31st, a couple days ago, $103,000 past due, 30 days or greater. That represents, and it represents 2.3% of our electric customers and 1.3% of our water customers. And that compares to 91,000 last month and 151,000 last March of 2024. The more seriously delinquent, 90 days plus, is at $25,000, 0.2% of our customers, our accounts, $28,000 last month and $39,000 last month into March last year. Really good statistics. It's important to understand that these are very, very low past due amounts in comparison to industry standards for utilities. Any business. Let's see, on the finance and accounting side, we have closed out 2024 financial general ledger information, and we're preparing, drafting the financial statements and the annual comprehensive financial report, also known as an ACFR. The 2024 audit fieldwork by Moss Adams starts on Monday. We look forward to that week. Couple of economic trends. The USA year over year, February 2025 CPI index is up 2.8 for the US, and San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward is up 2.7 year over year as of February. Predictions are that March will be slightly up on that for both of those. But that's that's an estimate at this point. The Town of Truckee's sales tax rate went up April 1st, from 8.5 to 9%. This is the breakdown of sales tax, where it goes, what it represents, 7.25 state, 0.25 Nevada County, Measure V, road maintenance, 0.5, Measure U, trails, 0.5, and then we're adding a 0.5 to go from 8.5 to 9 for Measure E, which was the essential services, I believe in November, that got approved by the voters. So we're at 9%. It's approximately a $30,000 impact. Not everything we purchase is subject to sales tax, and every year that how much we purchase that is subject to sales tax varies, but our rough estimate is $25,000 to $30,000. This is a quick snapshot of purchase power from UAMPS. It's a very material line item, as we've talked about with the PCA last board meeting, so it's an important thing to have awareness on. And through February, 2 months in, of course, only 2 months in, we spent, our purchase power costs through UAMPS have been $2.2 million, and that's down 5.4% to last year. And volume is down 0.7%, pretty flat. And then cost per megawatt is down almost 5%. We do know that natural gas prices have been fairly low. They are currently trending up in March and in April. Well, only 2 days, but anyway, very volatile would be they're becoming more and more volatile here in the last 45 days. So we'll see where that ends. And then just for the 2 months, this is our mix of purchase power, including Stampede, which does not directly flow through UAMPS. They schedule it for us. The hydro for Fallon is at 19%. That will drop to about 10% as we go through the year, because that's only in the winter months. I think November through March, something like that. And then you can see in the purple is our Red Mesa. That percentage will uptick as we get into summer months. Part of the month, the board asked, I listened. Right, I try and remember. So the procurement team, Greg and Carlos, picked this item, and it's an awesome one. Fault circuit indicators. Pretty cool looking device. And in facilities and fleet, general services, standard typical maintenance, snow removal, support services throughout the district and all our facilities. The mileages are here, good safety score. And we did in March complete our annual CARB ACF report file. It's one of what feels like thousands, but certainly it feels like at least 100, right? Regulatory filings and et cetera, things that we file throughout the district, and someday we'll add them all up. Mr. Poncelet probably knows the figure, but just one of them, just a half day's work. So Brian Young completed that for us.
Okay, well, that brings us to the consent calendar. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar this evening? Seeing none. Do we have any directors who have comments or questions about
Yes,
consent?
I am going to recuse myself because I own real property regarding consent item number 8. And then this carries on to items, so I can stay for the consent, but I'll be leaving for the action. See, I should have enlarged my font on the agenda.
Do you want my paper one?
I-
It's also very small.
Which one is it, Steve, that I need to recuse on for the action?
18 and 19.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Okay.
Graves wasn't.
Director Bender's recusal is noted for consent. Anything else from the board? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
A second?
I'll second.
Very good. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure, Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes, with the
Vice-
exception of 8.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
And President Finn.
Yes. Very good. We managed that one. Which brings us to our action items this evening. Our first one is item number 17, which is consideration to approve a procurement contract with Howard Industries for a customer payment kiosk. I believe we have a presentation from customer service. Or Mike.
Hi, Mike, Grant standing by.
Either one.
Mike and Grant show.
Grant.
Aye.
Welcome.
President Finn, members of the board, I'd like to introduce Grant Sachs, our customer service manager. I think you all know him. Thanks for joining us, Grant. And this is action item number 17, customer payment kiosk procurement. The district utilizes online payments, bank bill pay, mobile payments, front counter payments, checks by mail, customer payments towards their bill. Those are the primary payment methods. However, there are sufficient number of unbanked or underbanked customers in the district who, without a bank account or credit card, are not afforded the same 24-hour access to make payments on their accounts. This chart on the left is a mix of our payment types for 2024. We had 178,000. We had 178, thank you, 178,000 payments made in 2024. 36% of those were EFT, electronic funds transfer payment, and then 29% were auto pay credit card, and the rest types are presented here. 8% still pay by check by mail.
What about cash?
Counter cash.
Yes, we have counter cash at 1%.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
The
There it is.
The counter transactions are here in the bottom right
Okay.
quadrant. These are the counter payments. On the, some other interesting statistics I thought the board would want to understand and be aware of is our Smart Hub enrollment is at 92%. That is stellar enrollment, thanks to a concerted effort by both PIO and marketing and Alex and Stephen and Grant and the entire customer service team. That's pretty awesome. 60% enrollment in auto pay. I'd love to see that at 98%, but we'll get there.
Delinquents would go way down.
We have 1% on prepay, and that's a method to avoid having to do a full deposit of funds when you have credit issues. You can enroll in prepay, and that spreads things out evenly, and we have 161 customers enrolled in that. We have 5 enrolled in a payment plan where they've gotten behind and need some time to enroll. We offer that extensively with our past due accounts over time. And then almost 80% paperless enrollment. So that was a conservative effort by Grant and the customer service team as well, and everyone, and that's an exceptionally high rate. That's awesome as well. Talked about call volumes. The district's enterprise resource planning's ERP software system is National Information Solutions Cooperative. We call it NISC. You'll hear NISC quite a bit here at the district. In the consent, previously in the consent agenda portion of the agenda, we had an off-site payment location option where we're going to plan to contract with a company called Incom Vanilla to provide the ability for a customer to pay at a 7-Eleven or CVS here in town. There is a small fee for that, like you would see for other types. You know, it's pretty common these days. But convenience, that's at the 7-Eleven locations here, not only in Truckee, but in Reno. If you're on vacation in Hawaii, you could link it up anywhere in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
And that is linked directly to the account. They scan the barcode or put the account number in and directly ties. It's an integrated solution through our software, with our software. To address, in particular, the cash side and 24-hour options, we also looked at an on-site option for 24-hour ability to pay, and we looked at an integrated payment kiosk solution. Looked at there was 2 vendors specific to NISC, that are fully integrated with the NISC system. They've done the homework. It's not beta. It's not a Scott Crow and his team, a couple of weeks of integrated software design. This is already done. It's out there. Many utilities already have these a kiosk, also known as a reverse ATM. So instead of dispensing cash at an ATM, you put cash in or make a payment in, check in. Some of these objectives are listed here. Reducing account delinquencies with the ability to pay is important. The grant, remind me, if a customer makes a cash payment into this machine, does it update their account?
It'll send a real-time notation and reflect the payment on their account. If they happen to be disconnected for non-payment, it'll prompt them to agree to terms and conditions. It'll send a remote request to their meter to power it up right away as long as they make full and complete payment. Yep.
So essentially real-time updating of their account.
Give or take 30 seconds.
Wow,
I'll take it.
Thank you.
kind of cool.
Cute.
The company that makes the kiosk for this agenda item's recommendation is Howard Industries. You may or may not have heard of them, but they're a large player in the kiosk arena. And they're based and manufacturing are in Mississippi. The scope of the project includes installing the kiosk and then the electrical connections and Ethernet. Can't do anything without Ethernet these days, and testing and getting it up and going. So this is a capital expenditure procurement. If it was 5 years, 10-year life, hard to say for sure, but we're hoping to get a good 10 years out of it. 2,500 a year in depreciation. There's ample capital reserves for this. Specifically, I believe in the fiscal impact, this was part of the contingency line item. So small, I think, 10% of the contingency line item for capital procurement. And the recommendation is presented here to authorize the general manager to execute a procurement contract with Howard Industries for the purchase of one customer payment kiosk for an amount not to exceed $25,000, which includes the kiosk for $19,919 and contingency taxes and other fees totaling $5,081. With that, I'll turn it back over to President Finn.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Do we have any public comment on the procurement of a new kiosk? Seeing none. Do we have any director comments or questions about procuring a payment kiosk? Yes, Director Morrell.
I do have a question. So this is an outside kiosk, outside the office, right? The
Yes.
kiosk placement.
The placement would be in the entryway, but outside. The current, we're kind of looking at the two different models. They have one that we'd have to put it in the glass, or one side or the other would have to be changed out from glass to a wall and be like a more in-the-wall ATM style. And then the freestanding style is probably the one we're leaning towards. It would just be outside. It's, we can sweep the cash, and when it indicates that it's getting full, we could set a reserve level or a par level, if you will, to extract the funds from the machine, or we could empty the machine daily, those type things. But,
I kind of wondered about the vandalism part, since it's outside, and since an ATM is stocked with money and dispensing, and this one, people are putting money in, and I don't know how much, like you said, if it would need to be emptied daily or some sort of schedule, but is there any concern with the vandalism part since it's outside and dealing with money?
Always a concern. Grant, you want to add anything?
There's always an inherent risk. It's basically has the same forward-facing feature as the U.S. Bank down on Donner Pass Road, except ours is covered, and based on placement, you'd actually have to be in the parking lot to get line of sight in either of the solutions, the in-wall or the bolted-to-the-ground kiosk. So it's not without risk. Is it an acceptable risk? The bank seems to be okay with their ATM. I couldn't tell you. I don't want to promise you anything, but it meets that standard.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Any other comments or questions from
No, I had the same
directors?
thoughts. I mean, I guess the risk can be somewhat mitigated by not as much cash
Yeah.
being stockpiled at one time. And any concerns on staff safety about actually extracting the cash out of the machine?
That's a good question. So there's similar to our service that we have at the front counter, we have a Loomis come and pick up cash, and I guess at the time of collection, there's a risk. This is actually a risk mitigation. If we were to, there's an automatic sensor in the machine that will send a message to say I'm reaching capacity, because all notes of all denominations fill up in the same slots. So if it was hundreds, a larger amount would be there at capacity compared to 20s, 5s, and 10s. But we would be hands-off.
So staff will not
They
be-
have a contract with Brinks that we can put in place, similar to our Loomis contract, where they literally show up, special key, open it up, it prints a receipt, zeroes out the machine, and you start back at square one.
Yeah, my concern was just the staff risk. But if that's being contracted,
I think it's a reduction, just because we're hands-off, at least
Yeah,
for this
absolutely.
device in this location.
awesome. So when the Brinks truck is here, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
No, I think, there's always going to be risk with it, but I think it does offer a an opportunity for customers to, who don't have access online or bank account. What, besides cash, I'm assuming accepts credit and debit cards as well?
Yes, so it's RFID, so that's tap to pay, Apple Pay, Google Pay. You can insert a card, you can use your chip. There is a check function. Those are additional costs. That's a national standard called Check 21. It's used around the country. You put a check in, it essentially endorses it and spits it back out to you, and an electronic representation of that check gets sent off through the Check 21 service.
Cool. Awesome.
Amazing.
No further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, both directors. I'm going to turn to my right.
I think this is great, convenient, help people pay quicker, and it's a good decision.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I agree with my other directors, and I appreciate our steps to be ever more inclusive and flexible in the way that our customers, in the ways that we can serve our customers. So, including the 7-Eleven locations that we noted earlier in the consent. So, thank you very much for your efforts, folks. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes. Okay, thank you all. Moving right along to action item number 18. There we go. Consideration of authorizing the general manager to execute the agreement regarding APN number 043-010-005-000. And we say
This is where
goodbye to Director Bender for a moment. And the rest of us will settle in for another presentation from Mr. Salmon.
All right, I'd like to start off by introducing our CFD legal counsel. I believe they're on the phone, on the Zoom.
Yes.
Gregory?
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. So Gregory is with Stradling, the CFD's legal counsel. And they'll be available for questions throughout or at the end. So first off, if this seems familiar to at least a couple of board members, it is very similar to the fall presentations for two different parcels. We have the same two parcels on the agenda this evening. This first parcel, those deals fell through, and so we have new deals and to present to the board, and so that's what I'm going to go through this evening. So back in 2004 and 5, the CFD Grace Crossing issued special tax bonds totaling $34.5 million. Those bonds were issued to fund public infrastructure improvements very specific to the Grace Crossing development. The CFD's bond debt is repaid by Melrose special tax assessment for 30 years. The tax is applied to the parcels of the CFD. The vast majority of the Grace Crossing parcels have been paying their respective shares of that Melrose tax every year. However, there are 3 undeveloped parcels that have significant special tax delinquency amounts, 10+ years, and have incurred significant penalties and interest on top of not paying the Melrose tax itself. This is the location of those 3 parcels. To orient things, this is Alder Creek Middle School here in the center left. Above that, to the north, is the Catholic Church. And then the red box there is this next agenda item, not the specific agenda item. Thank you. That is about a 15-acre parcel known as the Cottages parcel. On the right is a parcel owned by DK Alviso, and that parcel is currently under an agreement previously approved by the board through Paradigm 8 to develop, and that planning is underway with the town of Town of Truckee's Planning Department to get approvals to do their planned project there. So we're optimistic that that's still, as far as we know, it's still active based on our communications with Paradigm 8. And then the bottom right is the subject of this specific agenda item, is the approximately 6-acre parcel off of Hennis Road that is delinquent as well. Both the bottom right and top left parcels are owned by Siddiqui is the name utilized. It's a family partnership, if you will, and he has found a new buyer. The previous buyers in October and November of 2024, that previous buyer, Soldier or something, dropped off, said, yeah, I'm not interested. We have a new buyer that has interest in cutting a deal. The specific tax amounts for these 3 parcels are listed here, totaling $6.8 million. There's, for this parcel, there is $1.4 million in delinquent Melrose tax, $145,000 in penalty, and $1.6 million in interest through April 30th of this year. Penalties and interest total almost $1.8 million. Some other background and new information. These 3 undeveloped parcels remain undeveloped for a few reasons. They're complex parcels. They're late to the game. They weren't developed when things were booming. Then we had a big recession in 2008, and then the back taxes happened. That complexes things even further. So the development agreement with the town has expired, the initial development agreement. There's discrepancies with respect to the number of units approved for these parcels that can still be developed. Between the tentative map, the written description of the specific plan, and the EIR report, all have different figures. There's also been changes in local and other regulatory agency development requirements that add complexity to doing something in 2025 versus doing something in 2005. The current delinquency amounts owed for the APN create a significant economic hurdle to enable development of the parcel. So the economics have to make sense for that parcel to be developed, and there's the Melrose delinquent amount and the penalties and interest that total $3.2 million. Hartford Land Management has an interest in the purchase of the parcel from the Siddiqui family partnership. If the current delinquency amount owed of $3.2 million, which includes the tax, penalty, and interest, can be reduced. So in coordination with the parcel owner, Hartford Land Management, Stradling, and us here as administrators of the district, we have created an agreement that in essence requests in exchange for payment of the special tax installment amount past due in full of $1.4 million, the CFD will waive all accrued penalties and interest to date of $1.8 million. The payment to the CFD of the $1.4 million would be part of the escrow closing. And this agreement has a 6-month window for completion. The waiver of current penalties and interest amounts due is in the best interest of the owners of the bonds and the CFD. It cures the special tax delinquency and facilitates development of the parcel, thereby reducing the likelihood of future special tax delinquencies. In this type of arrangement for the CFD to enter into this type of agreement, there is specific California Government Code 53340F. We need to ensure that the waivers are only specific to the parcels that were the subject of this parcel, and that there's a specific time frame window for this to be accomplished, and that is transferred to a new owner, not the current owner. It's not a card game, and the current owner retains ownership in some way, and that it's in the best interest of the debt holders. Big picture, in one of the attachments was a significant event notice. And we do that every year because we draw on reserves. Because these 3 parcels are not paying their special tax amount, we have to draw from reserves. And we've been doing that for a while. And if we continue to do that, we will not have enough funds to pay the last few years of debt service. We will run out. The well will run dry, that reserve balance. And so it's important that we try our best to get this parcel worked out, and all 3 of the parcels. Just a reminder, we have straddling on the call. Almost done, Gregory.
You're doing great.
There is no specific financial impact to the electric and water utilities. These are separate funds, separate ledgers, separate legal things. The 1.4 million would replenish the reserve balance and decrease the tax accounts receivable. We would not receive the 140,000 in penalties or the 1.6 million in interest. The probability of that is low. We've not recorded that. The CFD's financials do not reflect that that's a receivable, because we've known for a very long time that the likelihood of collection on that penalty and interest was close to 0. So we've not counted that as revenue and then kind of set it off as a receivable. We're still allowed legally to collect it, but the likelihood is very low. Probability is very low. So that's an accounting versus cash flow thing. So with that, the recommendation is to determine that the waiver of current penalties and interest for APN 043-010-005-000 agreement complies with the requirements of Government Code Section 53340F, and authorize the general manager to execute the agreement regarding this APN as attachment 1, accepting full payment for all installment special tax amounts past due in exchange for waiving current penalty and interest amounts. With that, I'll turn it back to President Finn and for any questions in the board, and reminder, we have Gregory with us as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that recap and update and new information. Do we have any public comment on this item this evening? Seeing none, to the board for questions, comments, deliberations. Feeling more and more familiar with this topic. It seems to keep coming up. And I don't think the underlying logic is the same and not flawed that I can see.
I have a question. What's the end result? Should they never pay? I mean, is there a point in time where the district can take the property, and so what happens if they don't, and then by settling or resetting precedents with future development?
Gregory?
Yeah, you want me to take that? Of course. So to answer your first question, the district has the right to foreclose, and in fact is obligated under the bond agreements to initiate foreclosure proceedings on those parcels that are delinquent to a certain threshold. We've actually done that in this instance. So we have a foreclosure judgment on the property here. I believe it's this one. And Mike can correct me if I'm
correct
conflating properties. Okay, thanks, Mike. So we've proceeded. We've gotten a judgment. We have not proceeded with actually going to a foreclosure sale on that judgment, but we could go that route as well. But in this instance, as Mike stated, because the interest has accrued so much greater than the underlying special assessment, it's unlikely at a foreclosure sale that anyone would pay the full amount. So by waiving the penalties and interest to this new buyer, remember, this is not a windfall for the current delinquent payor. This would be kind of cleaning the slate for a new buyer in order to make the property marketable and let them come in, develop, and subdivide and develop and have additional properties to pay special assessments. So we do have the right to foreclose. We have the obligation under the bond agreements. We have proceeded with that. But at this point, this agreement kind of guarantees the special assessment would get paid where a foreclosure sale would not.
Under a foreclosure sale, who takes ownership of the property?
So it'd be an auction. You would do a sheriff's sale, an auction, publicly notice it and explain, the property is for sale. We would disclose that there is a special assessment lien on the property and a judgment lien, and that the amount being the amount owed needs to be the bid needs to at least cover the amount owed, I guess would be the way to phrase it.
And so if it went to public sale, it would have to cover interest and penalties in the public sale?
So if it didn't cover, if it went to public sale and nobody bid, that's like high likelihood. Or if somebody bid and did not bid enough to cover all the penalties and interest and the special assessment, because we have a tax lien, that does not get wiped out in a foreclosure. If we were a private mortgage bank who was foreclosing on their loan, in a foreclosure sale, that gets wiped out if the bidder doesn't cover the cost of the loan. But taxes don't get wiped out in a foreclosure. So it would cover a portion of it, and then we would have a new buyer who is in essentially the same boat as the current owner. They owe more in interest than the underlying assessment, and then we could proceed with trying to collect on that.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly. So the penalties and interest carry forward until we erase it or waive it. Erase is not a good word. So,
Or in the unlikely event that we find a buyer who would pay it all, get the property current, and proceed. But that, again, is not,
it
doesn't
seems like
really.
we've been looking for that for a while and have
Exactly.
not successfully achieved that.
Exactly. And getting the underlying assessment paid is the critical issue here, because that's the amount of money that is owed to the bondholders. So the district is current on making its payments to the bondholders by drawing down on the reserve fund, as Mike mentioned. So currently we as the district do not owe bondholders any penalties or interest. So if we are able to collect this special assessment, replenish our reserve account, the financial health of the district is stronger and can continue to pay the bondholders.
Okay. Thank you for those clarifications. Do we have any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion on this item?
I'll move staff's recommendation as presented.
Can we,
Second that.
very good. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And the record will reflect that Director Bender recused himself.
Okay. Thank you. Which brings us to item 19, which has a startling similarity to item 18. We are now considering authorizing the general manager to execute the agreement regarding APN number 019-770-002-000. All right.
Thank you, President
you.
Finn. This is item 19, as you mentioned. We have Stradling on the line. If it serves the board, I will not go through every slide, and I'll just hit the tips of the waves. Basically the same presentation with slightly different numbers. So now we're talking about the upper left parcel here, just north of the church, approximately 15 acres. And that is almost, it's almost 3 million, $2,965,488 in special tax installment, the Melrose that is delinquent. It's a larger parcel. The same developer is interested in this parcel as well. And the agreement specifies with payment in full of the special tax amount of $2,965,000 to waive, we would waive the accrued penalties and interest to date of almost $3.4 million. This agreement as well needs to be in compliance with Section 53340F, California Government Code, which to the best of our knowledge is. And this would make a dramatic dent in or improvement in the dent of our reserve balance. So the recommendation is to determine that the waiver of current penalties and interest for APN 019-770-002-000 agreement complies with the government requirements of Government Code Section 53340F and authorize the general manager to execute the agreement regarding APN 019-770-002-000, accepting full payment for all installment special tax amounts past due in exchange for waiving current penalty and interest amounts.
Right.
I'll turn it back over to you, President Finn. Thank you.
Thank you again for your brevity on that one. Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. Anything new come up in anybody's thought process in the past 30 seconds or so? No? Okay. In which case, do we have a motion?
I'll move staff's recommendation for item 19 as presented.
And I'll second that.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And the record will reflect that Director Bender recused himself.
Great. Thank you all very much. Director Bender, if you can hear me, you can come back. We'll get him. There he is.
I just have one final comment, may I?
Please.
You know, as board directors up here, we're looking out for the best interest of the district as a whole, and I think both of these and the way we voted is in the best interest of the district as a whole, so that's good.
I absolutely agree, and we have taken in a lot of information about these accounts in the past 18 months, I would say. So thank you again, everybody. Which brings us now to item number 20, which is consideration for designation of labor negotiators for the general manager's employment contract.
All right, good evening, President Finn, members of the board. Action item number 20. This next two items we have are really some administrative procedural items for the board for consideration. A little bit of background. The general manager roles and responsibilities are outlined in District Code Title II Administration. The GM reports directly to the Board of Directors under the terms of an employment contract requiring update and renewal this July. Government Code Section 4957.6A outlines that prior to meeting on matters regarding employment labor agreements, the board must identify and designate its negotiators. In preparation for the meetings with the board and negotiations of updated terms of the GM employment agreement, staff is recommending the board designate its labor negotiators. It has been the general practice of the board to designate its president and vice president to serve as labor negotiators, but the board has the discretion to nominate and delegate at their desire. Staff's recommendation is to appoint 2 members of the district's board of directors to serve as negotiators for the GM manager or general manager's employment contract. And I will hand it back over to the board.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Do we have director comments or questions about this item? Yes, Director Morrell.
I just have one question. Is this an annual contract or every 2 years or 3 years? Is it for the general manager? Is it annually?
It's negotiated between the board and the general manager. The current term was a 4-year employment agreement expiring July 3rd of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Morrell. Do we have any other questions or comments from the board?
I like the idea of Pres and VP.
Okay.
Any objections?
No, I have no objections. That's the,
I don't have
That's
any
what you
objections as long as, but if either of our newer board members are interested in participating, I'm open to that as well.
and I do believe we will be asking for parameters from the whole board before you entrust us, you know. We will indeed be taking everybody's input before we go in there.
So I would agree with president and vice president. I'm too new to know what's been going on, so, but would be interested in the future.
Great. Thank you, Director Randall. Do we have a motion? I accept the responsibility if you're down.
I'll move that the board appoint the current president and vice president of the boards to negotiate as the negotiators for the general manager's employment contract.
I'll second that.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes. Okay, we are just zipping right through this meeting. Our last action item of the evening, item number 21, consideration of vote for local agency formation commission of Nevada County's open regular member seat. Yeah, this is a first since I've been on the board. We've never done this before. So, please.
All right, we'll start with a little bit of background, polling right from Nevada County LAFCO's website. Just kind of want to give an overview for those who aren't familiar what LAFCO's role is. The primary mission of the Local Agency Formation Commission, also known as LAFCO, is to encourage the orderly growth and development of the local agencies within the county in accordance with the policies and procedures established by the state legislature in the Cortez-Knox Local Government Reorganization Act of 1985, Section 56000 of the Government Code. Continuing on that, LAFCO's responsibilities include the review and approval of the formation of public agencies, a change in boundaries of existing agencies, and other changes in organization of local agencies such as consolidations. LAFCO's efforts are directed toward encouraging the efficient and economic delivery of public services and the preservation of agricultural and open space lands. Some new information. Recently, Nevada County LAFCO has issued a notice to independent districts of Nevada County, which the Truckee Downer PUD is one of those, requesting the completion of ballots to elect representatives to an open, regular member seat of the commission. Nevada County LAFCO has received 2 nominations for the open seat. The candidates nominated were included on the board packet. Mr. Rich Johansson from Nevada Irrigation District, one of the board members there, and Patricia Nelson, Nevada County Consolidated Fire District board member. Just as an added note, a copy of the ballot letter from Nevada County LAFCO and a statement of qualifications for each of the nominated candidates was provided in the board packet. Just as an added note, the ballot must be completed and signed by the board chair, in our case, the board president. If it's not signed by the board president in original signature, the result it will result in a voided ballot. So the board can collectively deliberate on this and consider, but the ballot must be submitted by the board president or a designated alternate, which we would have to do through ordinance or, a resolution, which we did not prepare for. So there is no direct fiscal impact here related to this item. Staff recommendation is for the Board of Directors to consider and hold discussions on the district's preferred candidate for the Nevada County LAFCO regular member seat, and to advise the board president to complete and submit a signed ballot reflecting the vote of the preferred candidate. And I will hand it back over to the board.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any public comments on this action item tonight? Okay, seeing none, the board. We have a little bit awkward moment of getting to discuss candidates and.
So Brian, the staff does not have a recommendation on either candidate?
Staff's not familiar with either of the candidates. They both represent agencies on the west slope of Nevada County that we haven't had much involvement with Nevada Irrigation District. They're a wholesale water. I think Director Liotis might have some experience with them, but we don't work with them a lot. And then obviously the fire district, we wouldn't have experience with either.
Does either type of district advantageous to the Turkey Donner? So like a fire district, or you said irrigation district, any similarities that would provide advantageous for us?
It's a great question. I think historically, boards and Council Gross may have some additional comments on this. That historically, boards will consider and have discussions on representation that most closely reflect our nature of our business. Nevada Irrigation District is a water and electric agency, but there is also a lot of, recent consideration and concern with fire district kind of sphere of influence and border delineation. So it's a great question. I don't have a specific recommendation from staff. I think that Nevada Irrigation District is an agency that more closely reflects our operation, but doesn't necessarily exclude fire districts from some of the, the heightened interests we have.
No help there.
So the only thing I would add is with Nevada County LAFCO has membership from Nevada County, membership from the incorporated cities within the county, and also with the special districts within the county. And so both of these candidates obviously are special district candidates, and as Brian said, at least with respect to function, NID is more closely aligned to Truckee Donner, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's aligned with values and views with respect to LAFCO functions.
Is anybody currently serving from the Truckee area?
Josh Sussman, he's actually the chair.
Yeah.
He's been on it for,
No, he's been on.
A long time.
decades.
And it looks like we've
Who's he
got,
representing, town?
Public member.
Public member.
and we have, Hardy Bullock lives here, and Courtney Henderson is the city's alternate. So I feel like we've got,
I was just looking, was there any closer alignment with the representative from up here, which apparently there isn't, so.
okay, well,
I'll make a motion to vote for the Nevada Irrigation District representative.
I'll
Do we-
second.
oh, well, okay. Do we have any other, before we take, I don't really have
An objection to that?
I don't have an
or-
objection,
Yeah,
no, I don't have an
yeah.
objection. I guess I don't feel very strongly, I think a conflict resolution certificate may be a valuable tool, but I'm also not, I was unable to find information that really led me to favor one candidate over the other in a substantive way, so.
I just have one other comment. Brian, when you said that you really didn't know either candidate, you couldn't provide a recommendation, then I didn't feel so bad because I didn't know anything about either of them. And I was really at a loss, and so I didn't feel so bad if you didn't have an opinion either.
Okay, so we have a motion. I believe we had a second. Okay. Do we have a roll call vote for that then?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
There we go. Hey,
Okay.
we voted.
Thank you.
Voted. All right, so I just get to fill this out and hand it to the clerk? Okay. And that was, we voted for Rich Johansson. The last time I actually signed something with a pen. Okay. Great. We are now going to be moving into closed session. Going to be discussing items number 22, 23, 24, and 25 as listed on the agenda. So thank you all very much for your attention.
Thank you. Wow.